It's kind of amusing to see Johann Strauss and Arnold Schoenberg juxtaposed with each other. Johann Strauss, the waltz king, the master of light-hearted Viennese music, and Schoenberg, who we remember as the father of rather severe dodecaphonic serialism. And on the face of it, you wouldn't think they have much in common. But they were both Viennese composers, born in the 19th century, albeit some 50 years apart. And Schoenberg, growing up in Strauss's Vienna, grew up loving Strauss waltzes just like everyone else. As to why he decided to arrange this Strauss waltz, I'll tell you the story. The waltz itself was written in 1889. And originally, the title was Hand in Hand, or a musical toast, because it was supposed to honor the get-together of Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany on the right and Emperor Franz Joseph on the left. And before they got together, somebody asked Strauss to write a piece in their honor, which he did. And his publisher, called Simrock, said, why don't you call it the Emperor Waltzes, because that will appeal to the vanity of both men. And so he did that. As for Schoenberg's involvement in this piece, in 1918, he and two of his primary disciples, Alban Berg and Anton Webern, decided to start an organization, a musical series in Vienna, which they called the Society for Private Musical Performances. And the reason that they started it, their mission, was to present scrupulously well-rehearsed performances of new music of the day. So they played for about 3.5 years, every Friday evening, sometimes 10 rehearsals per concert, music by people like Debussy and Bartók and Berg and Stravinsky and Webern and Alexander von Zemlinsky. And it's not an understatement to say that the public and the critics didn't like this music very much. As a matter of fact, in 1913, the daily newspaper in Vienna was called Die Zeit, and it had this caricature of Schoenberg. He's conducting, I don't know if you can see it, it's an orchestra of furiously battling musicians, some of whom are being carried off on stretchers. And Schoenberg himself was really not a bad artist. And one of the ways that he got back at them was by painting these rather grotesque caricatures of the critics of the day. But maybe on a more constructive note, he started this society for the private musical performances. And as the name implies, these really were private concerts. He didn't want critics or the general public. He only wanted people who were really interested in this music. And so you had to be a member of a sort of club in order to go to these concerts. And there was a sign when you got there that said, "No critics allowed." And when you got there, you weren't even allowed to applaud. You were just supposed to listen. It was supposed to be an opportunity for you to open your mind and hear music like you never heard before, performed, as I said, scrupulously well. And they played large pieces as well. They didn't have the wherewithal to have Mahler symphonies, so they would do them in reduced sizes. They made arrangements. Schoenberg arranged Afternoon of a Faun by Debussy for chamber ensemble. They made an arrangement of Das Lied von der Erde for chamber ensemble. And this went on for almost 3.5 years. And finally, this was post-World War I. Hyperinflation was eating into their ability to keep this going. They decided as a last-ditch effort to raise some money to have a benefit concert. And they figured, we'll have some music that everybody will like. Let's have Strauss waltzes. And Schoenberg and his colleagues made arrangements of them. This is the meticulous handwriting of Arnold Schoenberg in the arrangement of the piece we're about to hear. And the point of making them so meticulously was that they were going to auction off the arrangements afterwards to raise enough money to keep this going. Unfortunately, they couldn't. raise enough money to keep it going, and it collapsed under its own weight after about 3.5 years. But at least we have this nice arrangement of the Emperor Waltz by Schoenberg, which you will get to hear now. And if you feel like getting up and waltzing around the sanctuary, I would like to see that. So.